Imagine a place like right at the very edge of the known world, bathed in sunset glow.
Hmm.
And there's this incredible treasure, but it's guarded by these mysterious beings and a terrifying beast.
Sounds like something straight out of myth.
Exactly. What kind of treasure needs that much protection? And who'd be brave enough or maybe, sneaky enough to go after it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into just that world. We're talking about the Hesperides.
Ah, the nymphs of evening, that golden sunset light in Greek mythology.
That's them. And we've got a stack of sources for you. Ancient texts, modern takes, even some surprising language stuff that might just change how you see it all.
It gets complicated fast, which is part of the fun.
Right. So our mission today is to cut through all that, navigate the contradictions, and really pull out the key bits of knowledge.
Give you that shortcut to being properly clued in on who they were, what they guarded, and, well, why we're still talking about them thousands of years later.
We're not just retelling the story. We want to get into why it's so complex and, frankly, so captivating.
We'll cover their origins, which were all over the place, the garden itself.
Oh, yeah, the garden. And Heracles, of course. His famous 11th labor to get those golden apples.
And we'll even touch on a really interesting theory about what those golden apples might actually have been.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Where should we start? Their core identity.
Yeah, let's do that, because it's quite something. They're the daughters of the evening, or nymphs of the west.
Always linked with that setting sun, that golden light. It's right there in the name, isn't it? Hesperos.
The evening star, which apparently shares a root with our word west.
Exactly. And sometimes they're called Atlantides.
Right, linking them to Atlas, their supposed father. It all pulls them westward to the edge.
That core idea is pretty solid, but as soon as you dig a bit deeper, the details just explode into variations.
Like their number. I noticed that. Most Greek myths love threes, right? The Graces, the Fates.
They do, and the Hesperides are often pictured as 3. But there's this classicist, Evelyn Bird Harrison, who made a great point.
Oh, yeah.
She said their names are often abstract, interchangeable, which she saw as a sign of their impersonality. They're more symbols, maybe, of what the apples represent.
Less individuals, more concepts.
Kind of, representing the gifts, the magic of the apples themselves.
Okay. That makes sense of why the sources seem to, disagree so much on who and how many they were. It felt like a moving target when I was reading through.
It really is. And that tells you something important. It points to how old and fluid these myths were.
Not set in stone.
Not at all. You see mentions of 3, like Apollonius of Rhodes gives Aegle, Erytheus, and Hesper. Classic feel.
Okay.
But then Hesiod names 4. He adds Arethusa. Later on, you get Roman writers suggesting maybe 7.
Wow.
Yeah, Diodorus says 7, though he doesn't name them. Someone else, Petrus Apianus, did list 7 names. So the point is, this wasn't some fixed storybook character list.
It was a living myth, people retelling it differently.
It's exactly. Different regions, different times, maybe emphasizing different things. The fluidity is key.
So names are fluid, numbers are fluid. What about their parents? Just as messy.
Oh, absolutely. Adds to the mystery, doesn't it? Sometimes they're daughters of night, Nyx, or night and darkness, Erebus.
Very primordial, cosmic.
Right, gives them that ancient feel. But other times, it's Atlas and Hesperus, which is maybe more down to earth,
Yeah.
relatively speaking.
Still a titan, though.
True. Then you also see 4 seas and Cetos sea deities, or even Zeus and Themis.
Okay, so basically take your pick depending on the story you want to tell.
Pretty much. Roman versions often just say daughters of Hesperus, keeping it simple. It shows they were archetype storytellers, could plug into different cosmic frameworks.
And they weren't just, standing around guarding things. The sources mentioned talents, right? Something about singing.
They did. They're often called clear-voiced.
Yeah.
Euripides actually called them minstrel maids, suggests this enchanting, ethereal quality. But maybe the coolest bit is from Apollonius of Rhodes again. He says they could turn into trees.
Really? Like shapeshift?
Yeah. Hesper into a poplar, Erytheus an elm, Eagle a willow. He even describes them having white arms and golden heads.
Wow. That really ties them to nature, makes them seem almost elemental.
Doesn't it? And one of them, Erythea, her name means the red one, apparently gave her name to an island near Cadiz, where the monster Geryon lived. So their influence spreads geographically too.
Okay, from the nymphs themselves, let's go to their home. This blissful garden.
Ah, yes. Always placed somewhere in the far west.
Mm.
Near the Atlas Mountains, maybe, right at the edge of Oceanus, that river encircling the world. Sounds completely mythical.
Like off the map, did anyone try to place it more specifically?
Oh, people tried? Pliny the Elder, the Roman writer, he suggested Lixus, which is in modern Morocco, or maybe islands out in the Atlantic.
Pushing it further west.
Right. There's even a place called Hesperides, which is now Benghazi in Libya, that has some links. But really, by Roman times, it became more of a poetic idea.
A symbol of paradise.
Exactly. A concept the Renaissance thinkers and artists absolutely loved and revived. That remote, perfect, symbolic garden.
And the heart of this garden, the golden apples, where did they come from? It wasn't just any old tree, was it?
No, definitely not. This was Hera's personal orchard.
Yeah.
And the tree, or maybe it was a whole grove, grew these amazing golden apples.
Just orchard.
And the trees themselves, they were a wedding present.
A wedding present. From who?
From Gaia, primordial Earth herself. Gave them to Hera when she married Zeus. Talk about a powerful symbol, fertility, divine power.
Wow. So the Hesperides were basically tending Hera's ultra-valuable wedding gift.
That was their job. Though, some sources hint they might have occasionally snagged an apple for themselves.
Do you blame them?
Well, Hera apparently didn't trust them completely, so she added extra security.
She was.
Ladon, an immortal, never-sleeping, 100-headed dragon.
100 heads. And never slept. That's serious security.
You're not getting past Ladon easily. And just to add another layer, remember the Apple of Discord? The one that started the Trojan War?
Yeah, Eris threw it into a wedding feast.
Well, according to some versions, Eris got that very apple from this garden.
No way!
Hmm?
So these apples are tied to creation, temptation, and the start of the biggest war in Greek myth.
They pack a symbolic punch, don't they?
They really do. But here's where it gets really interesting for me. That theory about what they actually were, not apples.
Ah, the orange theory.
Right.
Yes, this is a great example of how new knowledge can make us look back at old myths differently.
Because oranges weren't really known back then in Greece or Rome.
Not like we know them. No, they came much later, Middle Ages, really.
Yeah.
But the linguistic clues are fascinating.
Go on.
Think about the botanical name for citrus fruits in Greek, Hesperidoide. It literally means Hesperidoids.
Like things of the Hesperides.
Exactly. It's as if they named the whole fruit group after the myth. And then there's the modern Greek word for orange, portocali,
Portocali.
named after Portugal, which is, in Iberia, pretty close to where some sources put the Garden of the Hesperides.
So the idea is people encountered this new golden fruit from the West and thought, those must be the golden apples of myth.
That's the theory. A sort of retroactive naming, linking the real fruit to the legendary one because of its color and origin.
So what does this mean for you listening? Imagine that, one of the most famous treasures in mythology, this impossible golden fruit. Maybe it was just, well, an orange.
It really makes you think about how we interpret these old stories, doesn't it? How new discoveries can change our view. Makes you question assumptions.
Definitely. Okay, so apples, maybe oranges, guarded by nymphs and a dragon. Enter the hero, Heracles.
Right. His 11th labor, penultimate task, given by Eurystheus. Steal the apples.
A huge ask, especially since, as we said, the garden was basically hidden. How did he even find it?
Good question. The sources, again, offer different roads. One popular one is he had to capture the Old Man of the Sea.
Nereus, or Proteus, the shapeshifter.
Yeah, one of those. Forced him to reveal the location. Another version says Prometheus helped him.
Prometheus, the Titan Heracles freed.
That's the one. Heracles freed him from the eagle, and in gratitude, Prometheus told him how to find the garden. Or maybe how to get the apples.
So even finding the place was an adventure in itself. Did he have other troubles on the way?
Oh, plenty. He fought the giant Antaeus, remember? The one who got strength from the earth.
Right. Heracles had to lift him up to defeat him.
Exactly. And he apparently had a narrow escape from being sacrificed by King Busiris in Egypt. It was a whole epic journey just to get there.
Okay, so he makes it, finally. Then comes the main event. Getting the apples. And here again, two different stories, right? Brute force or brains?
Correct. It depends which version you read. In one, Heracles uses his wits. He finds Atlas holding up the sky.
The nymph's father in some versions?
Right. Heracles offers to take over sky-holding duties for a bit if Atlas will go into the garden and fetch the apples for him.
Clever. Atlas probably wouldn't mind a break.
Apparently not. Atlas gets the apples, comes back, but then he tries to trick Heracles, says he'll deliver the apples, leaving Heracles stuck holding the sky.
Oh no. How did Heracles get out of that?
Pure cunning. He pretends to agree, but asks Atlas to just take the sky back for 1 second just so Heracles can adjust his cloak or put a pad on his shoulder.
And Atlas falls for it.
He does. Takes the sky back, and Heracles grabs the apples and runs for it. Classic trickster move.
Love that version. But there's another one.
There is. Much more straightforward. No tricking Atlas. Heracles just goes in, finds Late on the dragon.
The 100-headed, never-sleeping one.
That's him, and Heracles kills him. Shoots him with arrows, most likely, then just takes the apples himself.
Simple, direct, very Heracles in a way.
Exactly. A display of pure strength and bravery. Either way, he gets the apples.
But he doesn't keep them.
No. They're too powerful, too divine, maybe. Athena eventually takes them and returns them to the garden, restoring the cosmic order.
And you mentioned these might be the apples of joy that tempted Atalanta, different from the discord apple.
That's a distinction some sources make, yeah. Suggest maybe different kinds of magical apples, or just different symbolic uses in myth. Adds another layer of complexity.
The story doesn't quite end with Heracles leaving, though. The Argonauts show up later.
They do. It's a fascinating little sequel, almost. They arrive at the Hesperian plain after Heracles has been there, killed Ladon, taken the apples.
What happens?
Well, the Argonauts are desperate. They're dying of thirst. A very real problem, even for heroes.
And the Hesperides, are they still there?
They are, but initially when the heroes approach, the nymphs actually turn into dust, like out of grief or shock for what happened with Heracles and Ladon.
Wow, but they come back.
Yes, Orpheus prays, the heroes plead, and the nymphs reappear. They show compassion.
So they help them, even after Heracles basically raided their garden.
They do. And here's the connection back to Heracles. They direct the Argonauts to a spring.
A spring?
A spring that Heracles himself created. Apparently, he was also incredibly thirsty after his labors there, so he kicked or struck a rock near Lake Triton, and water gushed out.
Amazing. So Heracles' actions helped heroes who came after him.
Exactly. One of the nymphs, Eagle, even tells the Argonauts the story how Heracles came in wanton violence, but then smote the rock with his foot and made the spring.
It really connects these myths. Even after the main quest, the world keeps turning, and one hero's actions echo, helping others.
It's a great example of that interconnectedness in the myths.
Okay, so we've had golden apples, maybe oranges, but there's another interpretation, isn't there, from Diodorus Siculus. This one involves sheep.
Yes. This is maybe my favorite twist because it all hinges on language. Diodorus suggests the whole golden apple thing might be a linguistic misunderstanding.
How so?
He argues the Hesperides didn't guard fruit. They had flocks of sheep. Exceptionally beautiful sheep.
Okay, sheep. But why call them golden apples?
Because of their beauty, or maybe their color, perhaps a unique golden fleece sort of thing.
Yeah.
And crucially, the Greek word molon.
Molon.
It can mean apple, but it can also mean sheep.
No way! So the treasure could have been golden sheep, and it just got translated or understood over time as golden apples.
That's exactly Diodorus's idea. It's a brilliant bit of rationalization, trying to find a realistic explanation behind the myth.
So in that version, Ladon the dragon.
Wasn't a dragon at all. He was Dracon, a shepherd. A very strong, brave shepherd guarding these incredibly valuable golden sheep.
Wow. That changes everything about the story. Heracles the sheep rustler.
It does, doesn't it? And what's fascinating is how that ambiguity in a single word could create such a different narrative. It really encourages you to think critically, question the surface meaning.
To consider that maybe the stories we inherit aren't always exactly what they seem, multiple perspectives enriching the whole thing.
Precisely. Language shapes myth in profound ways.
And these myths, whether apples or sheep, clearly stuck around. They had a big comeback in the Renaissance, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. When classical learning was rediscovered, the Hesperides were ripe for symbolic interpretation. Artists, poets, they loved them.
You see references pop up.
All over the place. Robert Greene writes about the fearful dragon that watched the garden called Hesperides. Shakespeare throws in a line in Love's Labours Lost about climbing trees in the Hesperides.
Even Shakespeare.
Yep. John Milton mentions the ladies of the Hesperides in Paradise Regained. And the poet Robert Herrick even titled his big collection of poems Hesperides.
So they became shorthand for something distant, beautiful, maybe a bit dangerous.
I think so. That elusive treasure, the perilous quest, the paradise at the edge of the world, it clearly captured the imagination for centuries.
What an amazing journey we've taken then. It really is so much more than just nymphs and apples.
Definitely. We've seen their shifting identities, the different parents, the mystery of the garden.
Heracles quests both versions. The thirsty Argonauts.
And the linguistic twists, oranges, sheep, it's a rich tapestry.
This deep dive really shows how these ancient stories have so many layers. Linguistic quirks, different historical takes, those aha moments that help you feel genuinely informed.
It's about looking past the simple summary, isn't it?
Absolutely. So for you listening, what's the takeaway? Maybe when you encounter your own golden apple, a goal, a challenge, even just a tempting bit of enfui, think about the Hesperides.
Consider the different angles, the possibility of hidden meanings or interpretations.
Exactly. Could the real treasure be different from how it first looks? Are there linguistic twists at play? The Hesperides remind us that the value isn't always just in the object, the apple itself.
Sometimes it's in the stories we tell about it, the journey to understand it, and all those different perspectives we find along the way.
Keep questioning, keep exploring. There's always more beneath the surface. Ever felt like maybe your potential was being held back just by someone else's low expectations? Or perhaps you've seen it happen with other people where it seemed like being written off just sort of dimmed their light. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really powerful psychological thing called the Golem Effect. And this isn't just, having a bad day. It's more like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those lower expectations, they actually lead to poorer performance, often without anyone consciously realizing how it's happening.
Right. And for you listening in, our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to unpack exactly what this Golem Effect is. We'll trace its striking origins, look at how it shows up in real life, classrooms, workplaces, even sports fields. And crucially, we'll talk about what this means for you and how maybe we can guard against its influence, because it's subtle, but pretty potent. We're drawing our insights today mainly from the Wikipedia entry on the Golem Effect. It's actually a really rich source, gives a comprehensive look.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this. That name, Golem Effect. It's quite vivid, kind of ominous even. Where does it actually come from?
Yeah, it is striking. It's rooted deep in Jewish legend, specifically the story of the golem, the creature made of clay, brought to life by Rabbi Loew of Prague. The legend goes it was meant to protect the Jewish community, but, it eventually grew uncontrollable, became destructive, and had to be basically undone.
That's a powerful metaphor.
It really is. And the name wasn't accidental. It was chosen back in 1982 by Babad, Inbar, and Rosenthal. They saw that legend as, a symbol for the concerns social scientists had about the negative side of self-fulfilling prophecies. So at its core, the Golem Effect describes how lower expectations from a supervisor, maybe even from yourself, can directly lead to a drop in performance. It's mainly studied in, schools and workplaces.
Right. And when we talk about expectations shaping reality, the first thing that probably pops into most people's minds is its more famous counterpart, the Pygmalion effect. For anyone who might not know that one, how does Golem relate to Pygmalion? Is it just like the flip side?
Exactly. You've nailed it. The Golem Effect is essentially the negative corollary. So where Pygmalion is about positive expectations leading to better outcomes, better performance, the Golem Effect highlights the inverse, negative expectations leading to poorer results. They kind of share the same underlying mechanism about the power of belief, but just point opposite directions. Shows how powerful expectations are, for good or ill.
That's a really key distinction. So, okay, let's dig a bit deeper into how these negative expectations actually take root and start influencing behavior. Can you maybe walk us through that, perhaps drawing that parallel with how the positive Pygmalion effect works?
Sure. A good place to start is Rosenthal and Jacobson's classic work, Pygmalion in the Classroom, from way back in the 60s. Their experiments and loads since then really showed that a teacher's or a supervisor's expectations can subtly but significantly change their own behavior. So, for instance, when teachers were just randomly told some kids were bright and others dull, their interactions changed. They might give more attention, maybe more praise to the so-called bright kids. And then remarkably, those students actually started showing behaviors that lined up with the label, like leaning forward more, being more engaged.
Wow. So taking that same idea, but flipping it to the Golem side, we're talking about a negative feedback loop then. How do those low expectations from, say, a manager translate into actions that actually undermine someone's performance?
It's precisely that negative feedback loop.
Yeah.
Low expectations make supervisors act in ways, often unconsciously, that hinder a subordinate's performance. Maybe they offer less support, fewer opportunities, less challenging work, and this in turn can lead to negative behaviors or just less effort from the subordinate. And the result, it's this really stubborn, self-fulfilling prophecy. The initial low expectations seem confirmed, which reinforces the belief. It's a tough cycle to break.
Yeah, I can see that. And it seems like this isn't just theory. You mentioned Babad's 1982 paper being a cornerstone for studying this in schools. What did that research specifically find about how teachers' biases worked?
Well, Babad's research found that teachers who are more susceptible to bias tended to treat their low expectancy students more dogmatically, meaning they were more rigid, less encouraging, offered fewer chances for growth. And this treatment directly linked to worse performance for those students compared to the ones that teachers saw as high expectancy. What's interesting, though, is that teachers who weren't susceptible to bias, they didn't show those differences in how they treated students. It highlights how individual susceptibility plays a role.
That's a really stark finding. And it hammers home that this isn't just a classroom issue, right? What about the workplace? Do we see the same patterns?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The Golem effect definitely isn't confined to schools. You can look back at Schrank's 1968 study with U.S. Air Force Academy Airmen. A labeling effect was created just by randomly putting freshmen into different ability level classes. The label itself influenced their path.
That's the label. Wow.
Yeah. And more recently, a big meta-analysis by McNatt confirmed the Golem effect is very much real in professional settings. And the effect size, pretty similar to what we see in education. It's a potent force. It can shape individuals, supervisor-subordinate dynamics, maybe even potentially whole organizations. The big takeaway is that these labels, formal or informal, they have real, measurable impacts pretty much anywhere there's structure.
That's really significant. So if we're talking about these labels and their effects, does it get more nuanced? Are there like different flavors of the Golem effect?
Yes, Davidson and Eden came up with a really useful distinction. Two types. First, there's what they call the absolute Golem effect.
Yeah.
This is when the people labeled as low tier actually are, well, genuinely underqualifies for the job or the task.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in any group, some folks just won't meet certain performance standards, right? And the low expectations got to match that reality.
Okay, so absolute Golem is about a real skills gap. But then you mentioned a second type, the relative Golem effect. And you said that one sounds more insidious. Why is that?
Yeah, the relative Golem is trickier because it can bite even when everyone in the group is totally qualified, totally capable.
Right.
Think about it. Within any group, if you compare people, there's always going to be a lower tier relative to the others.
Right, yeah. Someone's always at the bottom of the stack comparatively.
Exactly. So just by labeling someone that way, even if they're objectively really skilled, those comparatively low expectations can start to actually degrade their performance.
Yeah.
It's this powerful internal comparison game that can be super damaging. So the key thing for you, the listener, is that even if you are skilled, just being seen as the lower performer can kickstart that self-fulfilling prophecy and hurt your results.
That is a critical insight. Wow. Means we really have to watch out for those internal comparisons. You mentioned Davidson and Eden suggesting de-golemization efforts, like convincing a group that maybe the initial ways we measure performance actually underestimate potential. That sounds like a really proactive approach. But how exactly do these low expectations manage to drag performance down? What are the psychological gears turning here?
That's the million-dollar question, and honestly, it's where the research gets a bit fuzzier, more debated. One major idea comes from Victor Vroom's expectancy theory. Basically, it suggests people tend to do things they think they can succeed at.
Makes sense.
So with the Golem effect, if a supervisor sets the bar low, the subordinate might think, okay, I don't need to put in maximum effort to hit that. Like if someone tells you a project is probably too hard for you, you might just unconsciously invest less time, less energy.
And then, surprise, surprise, the outcome isn't great, which just confirms the low expectation.
Exactly. That reduced effort leads to lower actual performance. That's ironic.
Okay, so that's one angle of the subordinate's perception-affecting effort. Is there another way to look at the mechanisms?
Yeah, another perspective comes from Rowe and O'Brien using transaction cost and agency theories. Their thought is, if supervisors are watching subordinates really closely, like expecting them to slack off or cut corners basically, monitoring for opportunistic behavior.
And like micromanaging out of distrust?
Kind of, yeah. The
Mhm.
subordinate might pick up on that distrust. They might feel like, well, they expect me to behave badly anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then because it's expected, they might actually start doing those things. Again, fulfilling the prophecy. But what's really fascinating here is, despite how well we've documented the effects of Pygmalion and Golem, we don't have one single, fully tested model that explains all the precise psychological cogs and wheels turning underneath. There's this gap, which is pretty striking when you think how much the Golem effect ties into other big workplace ideas like
Your
self-efficacy,
belief in yourself.
right, or a leader member exchange the quality of that relationship. Even transformational leadership, it connects to so much, but the exact how is still a bit murky.
It does seem like a strange gap given how clear the impact is, but maybe that brings us to a big challenge. Why is it so hard to do direct research on the Golem effect? What are the hurdles, the ethical minefields?
Yeah, you've definitely hit on a crucial point there. There's a real scarcity of direct Golem research, especially studies that try to, you know, induce it and measure it carefully. And the main reason, it boils down to some pretty significant ethical concerns. Researchers are, quite rightly, worried about causing harm. What if there are lingering negative effects on participants who are manipulated into performing worse? Or think about the supervisors involved, who might feel guilty afterwards for holding those negative expectations, even if they were manipulated into it. It's a really tricky ethical line to walk. You want to understand the harm without actually causing it.
That sounds like a real ethical tightrope. But it also sounds like researchers have found some pretty clever ways around these issues, ethically. Can you give us some examples of how they've studied it safely?
Absolutely. Researchers have gotten quite creative. For instance, Feldman and Prohaska used Confederates, basically actors pretending to be subordinates or students. This way, they could study how subjects acting as teachers or supervisors form negative expectations without actually harming any real students. Another example, Oz and Eden did a study with military squad leaders. They manipulated the leaders' perceptions, convincing them that low scores on a physical fitness test didn't necessarily mean someone was inept. They essentially built in a buffer against the Golem effect, reframing the meaning of the low score rather than directly inducing negative performance.
Ah, okay.
And then there's Reynolds' study, which was quite direct but still ethical. They randomly assigned support instructors to students who were pre-labeled based on a fake pretest as either lower or higher performing. And just as the Golem effect predicts, the students labeled lower performing ended up performing worse, demonstrating the effect without hopefully lasting harm because the label is known to be artificial in the context of the study design.
So it is possible to study it ethically.
Yes, these studies show it's viable. But despite that, direct Golem research still remains, well, regrettably scarce. And that raises a really important question, doesn't it? How much insight are we missing out on because we're not studying this potentially very impactful phenomenon more rigorously? The scarcity could mean we're seriously underestimating how widespread and damaging the Golem effect might be in our everyday lives, in our workplaces, our schools.
That's a really powerful point to consider. So, okay, let's shift focus slightly. We've talked classrooms, workplaces. How far does this Golem effect actually reach? Are there wider applications or maybe new areas where we're starting to see its influence?
Yeah, absolutely. The lens is definitely widening. Take cross-cultural effects. There's recent Pygmalion research, so the positive side looking at interactions across cultures. One study involved Japanese humanitarian aid workers and local organizations they collaborated with. It found that when the Japanese workers had positive perceptions of their local colleagues, the local organizations actually performed better. Which, naturally, makes you wonder about the flip side, right? Would Golem effects also crop up in these multicultural settings? Could cultural misunderstandings or biases amplify negative expectations? The big open question.
That's a really fascinating angle. What about the direction? We've mostly talked supervisor down to subordinate. Can it flow the other way?
Good question. Yes, there's this emerging idea, sometimes called Golem in reverse, or maybe reverse Pygmalion for the positive side. This is where the subordinate's expectations influence the supervisor's performance. And it's getting more relevant now with changing workplace demographics, like maybe older employees reporting to younger managers.
Right.
One study actually found that older workers who had younger supervisors tended to expect less from them leadership-wise. And consequently, they rated their leadership behaviors lower. Now, the study framed it as reverse Pygmalion, but it definitely hints that a reverse Golem effect could exist too, where negative expectations flowing upwards might subtly drag down a supervisor's effectiveness.
So expectations are a two-way street. Interesting. And lastly, what about groups? Can a whole team get stuck in a Golem effect, or is it just an individual thing?
Well, Eden's research has already shown that the Pygmalion effect works on groups too, not just individuals. High expectations for a whole team can lift the whole team's performance. So that strongly suggests we need similar studies looking at the Golem Effect groups. I mean, just imagine the potential impact if low expectations were somehow collectively placed on an entire department or project team.
Yeah, the potential for widespread underperformance, low morale, it could be huge.
Exactly. Understanding that group dynamic could really unlock new ways to build collective confidence and success.
When you think about it, the real-world ripples of the Golem effect are just profound. Look at education. The move away from tracking systems in many public schools. That's partly a response to this, right? Putting kids in remedial tracks sent a clear message of low expectations. And surprise, surprise, research suggested it often led to poorer performance, just like the Golem effect predicts. Or think about sports, a coach's vibe, their outward belief or disbelief in a player. That can massively impact how that player performs on the field. Obviously, you want coaches harnessing Pygmalion, building players up.
Absolutely. And it goes even broader into
Yeah.
really significant societal impacts. Think about groups that are often disenfranchised or stigmatized, people experiencing homelessness, individuals with intellectual disabilities, other groups society tends to look down on. There's a strong reason to believe that the pervasive low expectations often directed at these individuals by society at large could trigger really significant damaging golem effects, kind of trapping them in a cycle. It can be truly crippling.
That's a really heavy thought. But here's where it gets, I think, really interesting and maybe hopeful. These trends aren't necessarily set in stone. There is hope. You see government programs, nonprofits working specifically to recognize the potential in these individuals, to empower them, provide support systems.
Right. Actively pushing back against those low expectations.
Exactly. Directly countering the Golem effect by fostering positive expectations and creating environments where people can succeed. It really shows that awareness and intentional action can make a huge difference. So wrapping up, we've seen today just how incredibly powerful expectations can be. Not just the positive ones lifting us up, but maybe especially the negative ones. This Golem effect. It's not just some dusty psychological term. It's this silent force that's constantly shaping performance in our schools or jobs, even across society.
It really is.
Yeah.
And considering how deep these dynamics can run, maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. What small shift could you make in your own expectations? Maybe expectations you hold for yourself, or perhaps for others around you. What small shift could you implement, starting today, to maybe dismantle a potential Golem effect and instead actively foster growth and potential?
That's a powerful thought to sit with and maybe act on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep exploring the fascinating world of human psychology.
Have you ever felt that pull, that sort of deep urge to just step back from, well, everything? Escape the noise, get out into nature, maybe find some clarity, some purpose.
It's a pretty universal feeling, I think.
Exactly. And it's right at the heart of what we're diving into today. Henry David Thoreau and his really foundational 1854 work, Walden, or Life in the Woods.
Oh, Walden.
Classic.
But it's so much more than just a book, isn't it? It's, part personal declaration of independence, part social experiment.
A spiritual journey, definitely.
Right, and satire, too, in places. It's this manual for self-reliance, really digging into what it means to live deliberately.
Yeah, deliberately is the key word there.
So our mission today is to unpack this really rich, sometimes kind of surprising text. We'll get into its origins, the core ideas, and its legacy, which is still debated,
Absolutely. It's got layers. We've gone through a pretty comprehensive overview, trying to distill the key insights for you, our listener, to understand why Walden still hits home even today. Okay, let's unpack this. What really pushed Thoreau, a writer, a transcendentalist, to actually go live in the woods?
Well, there are a few different takes on that. E.B. White suggested Thoreau went to battle, sort of torn between just enjoying the world and needing to fix it.
Interesting, like an internal conflict.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have scholars like Leo Marx, who saw it more as an experiment in transcendental pastoralism.
Okay, unpack that a bit. Transcendental pastoralism.
Right. So basically taking those big transcendentalist ideas, nature's goodness, spiritual truth within, and trying to live them out practically in a simple, natural setting, like Emerson's ideas put into action.
Gotcha. So not just theory, but I've also heard it called something more, mundane, an experiment in home economics.
That's another key angle, absolutely. That label fits pretty well. He genuinely wanted to test if he could not just get by, but actually thrive by cutting out all the superfluous luxuries.
Right, the non-essential.
Exactly. To live a plain, simple life. It was pretty radical, trying to prove you didn't need all this stuff society said you needed.
So he wanted to escape over-civilization for something more raw. But it wasn't just running away impulsively.
No, definitely not impulsive. It was very deliberate. I mean, even out there in the woods, he spent a lot of time reading and writing.
Right. It wasn't just chopping wood and fishing.
No. His bigger aim was kind of to understand society better, but from the outside looking in. Through introspection, simple living, self-sufficiency, all those core transcendentalist principles.
Which, just to remind folks, really emphasized intuition, individual experience, and finding truth in nature, often away from organized society. Right?
Precisely. That's the philosophical backdrop.
Okay, so how did he actually do it? Going from the idea to, living in a cabin, he built it himself.
Pretty much, yeah. He built a small cabin near Walden Pond. The land was actually owned by his friend and mentor, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Ah, Emerson again, close to Concord, Massachusetts.
That's right. And he stayed for a very specific time, 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. July 4th, 1845 to September 6th, 1847.
2 years, 2 months, 2 days. But the book, it doesn't feel like it covers 2 years.
No, and that's one of the brilliant structural things about Walden. He condenses the whole experience into a single calendar year.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, he uses the 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, as a kind of symbol for human development, for spiritual growth. It's really clever.
It gives it a cycle, a narrative arc.
Exactly,
Yeah.
from introspection to rebirth.
And he was famously meticulous, wasn't he? Especially in that first chapter, economy. This is where it gets really interesting. He listed, everything it cost to build the cabin.
Oh, absolutely everything, down to the half cent. It's quite remarkable.
What was the point of that? Just being frugal?
It was much more than that. It was central to his whole argument. He listed things like boards costing $8, 3.5F, refuse shingles for $4, nails $3.90.
Wow.
The grand total was US $28, 12.5 cents. But the key takeaway, the real insight, isn't just the number. It's the proof.
Proof of what?
Proof that you could meet your basic needs for incredibly little money. That a rich spiritual life didn't depend on material wealth. Freedom, for him, came from needing less, not earning more.
So that detailed accounting sets up his whole philosophy.
Perfectly. It leads right into where I lived and what I lived for.
And that famous quote, everyone knows this one, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately.
To front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
What does that really mean, though, to live deliberately?
I think it's about being conscious, aware, not just drifting through life. He wanted to, as he put it, live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. Yeah, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. For us today, I mean, it's a huge challenge, isn't it? Are we really living or just existing? He pushes you to ask that.
To strip away the noise and find the essentials.
Exactly.
And his daily life seemed to be about that, too. Like in the sounds chapter, he talks about being forever on the alert, always looking at what is to be seen. Finding amusement in just the sounds around him. Church bells, wagons, cows, birds. It wasn't about seeking entertainment outside, was it?
No, that's a crucial point. The amusement, the richness, it came from within. From paying attention to his immediate surroundings, finding the extraordinary in the ordinary,
It's a kind of mindfulness, really.
Very much so. Cultivating that deep connection with right here, right now.
Now, you might picture him as this total hermit, but that's not quite right, is it? In Solitude, he mentions leaving 3 chairs ready for visitors.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? He actually said he got more visitors out at Walden than he did living in Concord.
Really? Who was visiting him out there?
All sorts of people. He talks about one guy, Alec Therian, a French-Canadian woodsman. Couldn't read or write. Thoreau described him as leading an animal life.
Interesting comparison.
Yeah, he even compares him to the pond itself, sort of raw, natural. It shows Thoreau was interested in all kinds of human experience, not just the intellectual kind.
So he wasn't completely cut off. He still engaged with society. Like in the village chapter, he went into town.
Oh, yeah, he went into Concord for supplies, gossip, news. But one trip was particularly famous.
The poll tax incident.
Exactly. He got arrested and spent a night in jail because he refused to pay a poll tax.
Why? What was the protest about?
It was his protest against the government, specifically its support of slavery and the Mexican-American War. He wrote about refusing allegiance to a state that buys and sells men, women, and children like cattle.
So a very direct act of civil disobedience.
Absolutely. It connects directly to his ideas about individual conscience being more important than unjust laws. Though, importantly, he wasn't aligning with a specific political party. It was about his personal moral stance.
Right. Understood. And beyond people, his connection with nature itself seems incredibly deep. The way he describes the ponds, lovelier than diamonds.
Oh, his observations are incredibly precise, poetic even. Watching the winter animals, the owls, hares, squirrels.
And the coming of spring. He describes the ice melting with powerful thundering and rumbling. You can almost hear it.
He truly saw nature as alive, vibrant, full of meaning. Which leads into that chapter, Higher Laws.
Ah, yes, where he gets into diet and hunting.
Right. He discusses moving beyond sort of carnal appetites. He questions hunting and eating meat as part of striving for a higher state.
Although he did eat fish and pork himself sometimes, didn't he?
He did. It wasn't about rigid dogma for him, maybe, but the principle. He wrote, one must love that of the wild just as much as one loves that of the good, and that the ideal is living on plants you cultivate yourself.
The harmony with nature.
That seems to be the goal, yeah. Even if achieving it perfectly is, well, complicated.
Okay, so moving beyond the story of his time there, Walden is obviously this huge philosophical statement. What are the big, enduring ideas that still speak to us?
Well, I think the emphasis on solitude, contemplation, and that closeness to nature, that's still incredibly powerful. Seeing those things as a way to escape what he called a life of quiet desperation.
Which he thought many people were living.
Yeah. And it's definitely a sharp critique of, consumerism, materialism, and how society often disconnects us from nature, sometimes even destroys it.
The simple life isn't just less stuff, it's more.
Right.
Life.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And specific themes come through really strongly, like self-reliance. That's huge in Walden, isn't it? Echoing Emerson.
Absolutely. Both economic self-reliance, providing for yourself, and social or intellectual self-reliance, trusting your own intuition. It's core transcendentalism.
And simplicity.
Yeah.
Like literally patching his clothes, avoiding unnecessary buying.
Yeah.
That freed up his time.
Yeah. Exactly. Less time working for stuff meant more time for living, observing, thinking, writing. Leisure in the true sense.
He also critiques progress, doesn't he? The idea that new technology or faster trains automatically make life better.
Right. He questions if all that outward improvement actually leads to inner peace, a really relevant question today, I think.
Definitely. And underpinning it all is this call for spiritual awakening.
Yeah, he saw that as the source. Like if you awaken spiritually, inwardly, then finding truth in nature, living simply, self-reliance, all that follows. It starts from within. Nature reflects us, teaches us.
It's not just what he says, though. It's how he says it. The writing itself is pretty unique.
Oh, completely. His prose, it's often called surgically precise. Like every word is deliberately chosen.
And the metaphors?
He uses these incredible extended allegorical metaphors. So not just a quick comparison, but these elaborate symbolic ideas woven through the text. Plus vivid descriptions, obviously.
He uses lots of literary tricks, too, right? Irony, satire.
All of it. Understatement, hyperbole, personification. He shifts tones constantly. He can be scientifically observant one moment, then deeply transcendental the next, sometimes in the same sentence.
It's not always a straightforward read, though. I mean, it can be challenging.
No, it's definitely not beach reading. And that's intentional, I think.
How so? Why make it challenging?
He fills it with sarcasm, paradoxes, and double entendres. Little word plays and contradictions. It's like he's trying to tease, challenge, and even fool his readers, as one critic put it.
Why? To make you work for it.
Pretty much. He felt that for some truths, especially the deeper, nonverbal ones, words were kind of inadequate. So he uses language in tricky ways to force you, the reader, to engage, to reach beyond the literal meaning, to think with him.
Makes sense. So who influenced this style? We mentioned Emerson as a mentor.
Right, Emerson was huge, but Thoreau really found his own voice. People point to Thomas Carlyle, too, especially for the way Thoreau uses clothes as a metaphor for society and identity.
It's bothing metaphor.
Yeah, and there are tons of biblical allusions. That line, Walden was dead and is alive again, directly echoes the prodigal son story in Luke. He personifies the pond, linking its cycles to human transformation.
Wow. So given all this depth, this challenging style, how did people react when it first came out in 1854? Was it a bestseller?
No, not even close, actually. It had a really slow start.
Really?
Yeah, it took 5 years just to sell 2,000 copies. It actually went out of print for a while until after he died in 1862.
Huh. I wouldn't have guessed that.
But interestingly, recent research suggests it was received maybe better than we used to think. Like, out of 66 early reviews, 46 were actually strongly favorable.
Oh, okay. What did they like?
They praised his independence, his practicality, his wisdom, his manly simplicity, his fearlessness. Emerson himself said, "All American kind are delighted with Walden." So it wasn't totally ignored.
But it wasn't universally loved either. There were critics.
Oh, for sure. Words like quaint or eccentric popped up a lot. Some called him selfish, strange, impractical, privileged, even misanthropic.
It's misanthropic.
Wow.
Yeah. Robert Louis Stevenson called his lifestyle unmanly, something almost dastardly. And the poet Whittier felt he was telling people to lower themselves to the level of a woodchuck.
Ouch. Any modern critiques?
Yeah, more recently, Catherine Schultz wrote a piece accusing him of hypocrisy and being sanctimonious based on selective readings, though that critique itself got criticized for being, well, selective.
So, a complex reception history, but today, it's definitely considered a classic.
Undeniably. Robert Frost said that with Walden, Thoreau surpasses everything we have had in America. John Updike called it a totem for the whole back-to-nature anti-consumerist mindset.
To the point where Updike worried it might become as revered and unread as the Bible.
Exactly. It holds that kind of cultural weight now. People know it even if they haven't, read every page.
And its influence goes way beyond just literature, right? Pops up in some unexpected places.
It really does. It's kind of amazing. I mean, there's a critically acclaimed video game, Walden, a game.
A video game.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. An open-world simulation of his life in the woods, released on his 200th birthday. And there's the Digital Thoreau Project online, with different versions of the text for scholars to study.
That's wild. What else? Businesses? Music?
Well, the psychologist B.F. Skinner was inspired by it to write his utopia, Walden 2. Themes pop up in movies like Dead Poets Society.
Oh, yeah, you can see that.
The metal band Nightwish quotes him. The investment firm Morningstar, named after the last line of the book. The sun is but a morning star.
No way. Morningstar.
Yep. And even in the video game Fallout 4, there's a Walden Pond location with a little tourist guide talking about Thoreau.
That's incredible. It's everywhere, even in climate science.
Exactly. Professor Richard Primack uses Thoreau's detailed notes on when plants flowered or birds arrived as historical data to track climate change impacts.
Wow. Using Walden for climate research.
Yeah. And many argue the whole genre of American nature writing pretty much starts with Thoreau. Its reach is just huge and ongoing.
So after this deep dive, what's the final takeaway? What does Walden mean for us now in our crazy, busy lives?
I think it's remembering that Walden is all those things we talked about. A personal story, a sharp critique, a scientific record, a philosophical guide. It's this enduring reminder of the value of living deliberately.
Paying attention.
Yeah, paying attention, self-reflection, and making that conscious effort to connect with the natural world however we can find it, even if it's just, a moment of quiet thought.
And that famous closing line sums it up pretty well. If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away.
Trusting your own rhythm.
Right. So maybe the question for you, listening now, is, in this hyper-connected world, what small, deliberate step could you take to live deep, to hear your own different drummer, and maybe find your own kind of Walden?